When the Browns needed clarity, Kevin Stefanski gave them confusion. His refusal to start Shedeur Sanders earlier in the season already drew questions, but his meltdown in a must-win game, marked by that baffling two-point call, sealed his fate. The moment became more than a coaching blunder. It became symbolic of a deeper failure to trust instinct, to see emerging greatness before it's too late. And that's exactly what Sanders had become, a rising star, hidden in plain sight, finally unleashed in front of a stunned home. As Stefanski's grip on the team dissolved, Sanders took hold. His composure, vision, and control flipped the narrative in minutes. Fans didn't just see a quarterback. They saw a future. This wasn't about one game or one fired coach.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
It was about a long overdue course correction, a city finding its heartbeat again, and a team finally aligning behind a player who changed everything the second he was allowed to. This game was supposed to be a funeral for the Browns season. Elimination was on the table. Tension was in the air. The team had clawed its way into a must-win moment, and all they needed was a simple, standard extra point to stay in it. Nothing flashy, nothing heroic. Just play it smart, tie the game, move forward. But instead of stability, Cleveland got chaos. Kevin Stefanski called for two. It was the kind of decision that instantly polarizes, half the stadium stunned silent, the other half shouting at their TVs. And then, it failed. Spectacularly. The ball hit the turf, the scoreboard didn't budge, and the ripple effect started immediately. That one call flipped the game's tone and lit a match under everything the Browns had built up to that point. And just like that, the chaos began. Stefanski's strategy wasn't just bold. It was reckless. At the highest level of football, these are the margins games are won and lost on. When the season's on the line, you don't make a call like that unless you're absolutely certain your team can execute. Stefanski's decision didn't show confidence. It exposed panic, overthinking, maybe even desperation. And when you gamble and lose on national television, the backlash isn't subtle. But here's where things get wild. Out of the smoke, from deep on the bench, Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field, and in a matter of minutes, changed the entire identity of the team. He wasn't supposed to be the one in this position. He wasn't even fully trusted by the coaching staff leading into this game. The hesitation had been constant. The doubts had been loud. For weeks, if not months, the storyline was the same. He wasn't photos wrong. What unfolded next was a quarterback performance that felt almost surreal. Sanders didn't look shaken. He looked unbothered. While the stadium buzzed with confusion and frustration, he played like it was just another day at the office. Every throw had intention. Every drive had structure. The tempo changed, the team shifted, and the entire atmosphere flipped on its head. And just like that, it wasn't Stefanski's team anymore, it was Sanders. There's a reason people are calling this a turning point in Browns history. Because Sanders didn't just fill in, he took over. The level of control he showed, the composure under pressure, the NFL caliber reads and throws, it was all there, and not in flashes, not in one or two lucky moments. From start to finish, he ran the offense with a level of confidence that made it hard to believe this guy had just been benched weeks prior. His presence was undeniable. And what made it even more poetic, it happened directly after Stefanski's confidence imploded. The same coach who refused to start Sanders. The same coach who rolled the dice on a high-stakes two-point conversion instead of trusting his team to keep grinding. In one night, Sanders proved everything Stefanski didn't believe about him wrong. Every pass that hit its mark, every third down he converted, every decision at the line of scrimmage, it all read like a personal rebuttal, a statement, not just to the fans, but to the leadership that had kept him in the shadows. This game wasn't just a comeback. It was a reckoning, and Cleveland felt it. Fans were ready to write off the season, suddenly had a reason to believe. Not in a slow rebuild, not in a 5-year plan, but in a right-now moment. A sudden spark that didn't just save the game, but rewrote the arc of the season. Collection, and it was all Sanders. Stefanski's exit didn't come as a shock. His choices have been questionable all season, but this was a final straw. You don't get to mismanage talent like that and keep your job, especially not in Cleveland, where fans have endured years of missed windows, quarterback roulette, and false dawns. This one felt different, and the ownership finally read the room, because when a young player gives you everything you've been searching for, and your coach refuses to recognize it, that's not just stubbornness. That's malpractice. The post-game reaction wasn't just relief. It was release. Fans weren't just celebrating a win. They were celebrating clarity. The team had stopped spinning its wheels. For once, there was someone behind center who didn't flinch, didn't fold, and didn't shrink under the pressure. Sanders didn't just embrace the moment. He owned it, and in doing so, he gave the Browns something they haven't had in years, a reason to believe that the future is already here. And this is what leadership looks like. Not in a press conference, not in locker room speeches, but in the middle of a game that was crumbling before everyone's eyes. Sanders walked into a disaster zone and brought order, command, results, the kind that don't need PR spins or analyst breakdowns. They speak for themselves. And now, the Browns have no excuses. You have your quarterback. You have your fan base fired up. You have a fresh page. What comes next is about how the organization responds. Do they build around him? Do they double down on the energy he brings? Or do they fumble the moment trying to over-control what's already working? Because this is no longer theoretical. This isn't a maybe if we develop him situation. Sanders already is that guy. And the Browns are now tasked with moving fast enough to keep up with him. Anything less his photos won. His impact is already bigger than stats. It's cultural. It's emotional. It's the kind of moment fans remember forever. The night everything looked lost, and a 21-year-old walked in, lit the place up, and gave Cleveland something they've been starved for. Hope that last past the fourth quarter. He didn't win the job with hype. He took it with precision. This isn't just about potential anymore. This is about expectation. What Sanders proved is that when raw talent meets opportunity, unfiltered, unblocked, and finally trusted, the results aren't just impressive. They're transformative. Now, the Browns are different. Not just on paper, but in identity. They're not the underdog waiting for something good to happen. They're the team with a franchise quarterback right now. The team whose biggest story is no longer dysfunction. It's redemption. So, yeah, haters were silenced. Stefanski was out. And Shedeur Sanders? He just announced himself to the world without saying a word. Let us know your thoughts. Did Stefanski seal his fate with that call? Should Sanders have been leading this team long before this game? And how far do you think he can take the Browns now that he's been unleashed? Like the video if you felt that shift. Drop a comment if you saw the moment all turn around. And hit subscribe if you're ready to follow what could be the start of a dynasty, led by a quarterback no one wanted to believe in until it's too late not to. And now, let's talk about what this game actually means, not just for Browns, but for football as a whole. Because what Shedeur Sanders did wasn't just special. It was disruptive. He didn't just win a game. He cracked the code. He flipped the script. He exposed how easy it is for institutions, coaching staffs, front offices, talking heads, to completely miss it. How many times have we heard the same tired excuses? He's too young. He needs to develop. We're going to ease him in. No one says out loud, but it always means the same thing. We're afraid to hand the keys over to someone who hasn't been through our system. But Sanders? He wasn't interested in waiting for anyone's system. He became the system. When Stefanski pulled the trigger on that reckless two-point attempt, and everything started to unravel, it was Sanders who stepped in, not to survive the collapse, but to lead through it. That's not something you coach. That's not something you fake. That's not something you get after years of clipboard duty. That's just there. You either have it or you don't. And Shedeur Sanders has it. What's wild is that all the traits the Browns were supposedly looking for, command, maturity, poise, explosiveness, they were right there on the sideline all along. But instead of trusting it, the coaching staff clung to the comfort of routine, the same routines that had led them into a corner. And when they finally gave Sanders a shot, it became crystal clear. The Browns didn't have a quarterback problem. They had a vision problem. master collection. The man they needed was already on the roster. He just hadn't been unleashed. And when he finally was, it felt like watching a city breathe again. Cleveland isn't new to heartbreak. These fans have sat through every version of disappointment. Quarterback carousel, coaching chaos, last-minute collapses. It's a cycle that wears down even the most loyal fan bases. But in the middle of that storm, Sanders gave them something they haven't had in a long time. A reason to believe that maybe this time it's actually because this wasn't one of those good for a rookie performances. This was just good. Period. NFL good. Playoff good. Franchise-altering good. The kind of performance that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep and makes fans line up outside the team's shop the next morning. And more than that, it was authentic. It didn't feel like a fluke. It felt like the start of something. The most telling moment of the night wasn't the touchdown. It wasn't the comeback. It was that one throw threaded between two defenders under pressure on 3rd and long that made everyone watching pause and say, "Oh, this guy's different." That's the moment you don't come back from. Not as a coach who doubted him. Not as a fan who was unsure. Not as an opponent who thought you had this team figured out. Because now, you don't. Everything changed. This game wasn't just about Sanders stepping up. It was about Stefanski being left behind. Because for every perfect read, for every sharp throw, for every audible Sanders called a line that worked like magic, you could feel the weight of Stefanski's missed opportunities growing heavier. How long had this been sitting there? How long had this team been sitting on a game changer, only to keep hiding behind development and structure and experience? It's the kind of mistake you don't just walk back. It's the kind of mistake that costs you your job. And that's exactly what happened. When the final whistle blew, there wasn't debate. There wasn't a question. Stefanski was done. The decision was already made for him. Not by the front office, not by the media, but by the truth everyone had just witnessed. There's no saving a coach who didn't believe in the one player who saved the season. Because Shedeur didn't just win the game, he shifted the entire narrative. In a league built on hype, spin, and overreaction, what he gave the Browns was something more powerful than all of it: certainty. You know it when you see it. That feeling where you stop hoping and start knowing. Where you don't just root for a guy, you rally behind him. You defend him. You wear his jersey because it doesn't feel like a gamble anymore. It feels like reality. That's where Cleveland is now. And you can feel it everywhere. You can see it in the way the players talked about him after the game. Not just as a teammate, but as a leader. You can hear it in the fans who didn't just celebrate, they exhaled. Like this thing they've been waiting for finally arrived. No caveats. No asterisks. Just, yes, this is the photos. And what's wild is how quickly it all happened. One game. One moment. That's all it took. Because that's the power of belief when it's backed up by execution. You don't need a full season. You don't need 10 starts. You just need one chance. And if you're ready, truly ready, you don't get the job back. That job belongs to Sanders now. Permanently. There's no going back to committees or question marks. There's no more figuring things out. The Browns have their quarterback. The rest is just noise. But don't get it twisted. This isn't a fairy tale. The road ahead is still going to be brutal. Defenses will adjust. Critics will overanalyze. Expectations will balloon. That's the cost of greatness. But if there's one thing Sanders proved, it's that he thrives in the storm. He didn't just embrace the chaos. He commanded it. That's what separates hype from history. The ability to perform when the pressure is suffocating. To see the chaos and cut through it like it was designed just for you. And for Sanders, that moment wasn't overwhelming. It was familiar. Like this is where he was always meant to be. And if you're the Browns front office right now, you don't just lean into this. You build around it like your life depends on it. Because for the first time in a long, long time, you're not chasing potential. You're living in it. Now the pressure's on the organization to match what Sanders just delivered. New coaching leadership, better protection, schemes built around what he does best, weapons that complement his style. Because when you get a quarterback like this, you do not stall. You accelerate. You go all in. No more experiments. No more guesswork. Cleveland just got their answer. So let's put it bluntly. This wasn't just a historic game. This was a cultural reset. A before and after moment in Browns history. Before Sanders, cautious, dysfunctional, lost. After Sanders, confident, dangerous, reborn. The NFL moves fast. Stars rise and fall. Hype comes and goes. But what Shedeur Sanders gave Cleveland was more than flash. It was foundation. And now, it's time to build. And now that the dust has finally settled, you can feel it, right? This wasn't just a game. This was a reckoning. Because if we're being completely honest, this wasn't just about Shedeur Sanders going off. It wasn't just about one coach making a bad decision. This was about the Browns finally confronting the brutal truth they've been dancing around for years. They've been playing it safe, and it's been killing them. Playing not to lose, following the process, trusting the system, always 2 years away, always building something, always waiting for the right moment. And then, in a game that should have been the end, when everything was on the verge of collapse, that moment just showed up, and it looked a lot like Shedeur Sanders walking onto the field like he owned it, because he did. The irony is so loud it's almost poetic. The player they refused to start, the guy who was supposedly not ready, the quarterback buried under layers of caution and quarterback room politics. That's the one who turned the season around, who saved the game, who got the coach fired. Let's be clear. Kevin Stefanski didn't just get fired because he lost. He got fired because he couldn't see what was right in front of him. Shedeur wasn't a project. He wasn't a work in progress. He was the answer. And Stefanski looked him in the eye and said, "Not yet." And then that same player walked on the field with playoff hopes slipping away, the fans boiling with frustration, the coaching decisions crumbling in real time. And he did what Stefanski photos won. He took control. He didn't hesitate. He didn't crumble. He didn't waste time finding his rhythm. He was a rhythm. Every drive felt like he was rewriting the playbook. Every throw was a "why wasn't he starting earlier?" moment. You could feel it. The confidence, the control, the complete shift in momentum the second he took over. And what did Stefanski have to offer in return? A failed 2-point conversion and a one-way ticket out of Cleveland. What Shedeur Sanders delivered that night was more than just yards and touchdowns. He delivered clarity. The kind that front offices pray for. The kind that cuts through all the analytics, all the scouting reports, all the coaching room debates. The kind that says, this is a guy. And when you get that kind of clarity, the rest of the organization has to move accordingly. Quickly, decisively. There's no going back now. There's no quarterback controversy. There's no week-to-week decision-making. That ship has sailed. The Sanders era has officially begun. And now, Cleveland finds itself in completely unfamiliar territory. Hope that actually feels grounded, not in hype, not in draft picks, but in proof, in action, in a 21-year-old who played like a 10-year veteran while the entire franchise was imploding around him. He didn't just survive the pressure. He thrived in it. He answered it. He looked pressure in the face and said, "That's cute. Watch photos. This is what changes a team's trajectory. Not just because of what it means in the standings, but because of what it does to the players around him." The body language shifted. The urgency came back. The sideline looked alive again. Because now they're not playing for potential. They're playing with purpose. They have a quarterback who gives them a chance in every game. And here's the thing. NFL teams don't just follow talent. They follow belief. What Shedeur did in that game forced the Browns to believe in themselves again. To believe that maybe, just maybe, this time won't end in heartbreak. That maybe this team can do more than just flirt with success. That maybe Cleveland isn't just some cursed storyline that's always destined to unravel. That belief changes everything. And you better believe the fans felt it too. Cleveland has seen too much to be fooled easily. This is a fan base that's heard every empty promise, lived through every rebuild, watched every season slowly spiral into sadness. But that night was different. Because it wasn't about marketing. It wasn't about potential. It wasn't about hope built on hype. It was real. It was undeniable. You could hear it in the cheers. You could see it in the tweets. You could feel it on the streets. That entire city shifted gears the moment Sanders took the game over. The buzz wasn't artificial, it was earned. From the opening snap of his first drive to the final whistle, it was his team, and everyone knew it. So now, the Browns face a rare opportunity. A clean break. The failed leadership is out. The future is standing on the field, already proving himself. The city is energized. The moment is here. The only question is, will they have the guts to build around it? No more clinging to veterans for safety. No more conservative play calling. No more developing talent just to bury it under outdated systems. Shedeur proved he's ready. Now build the damn team around him. Get him weapons. Get him protection. Get him a coaching staff that understands what they've got and doesn't try to mold him into something safer. Lean into the chaos he can control. Let him lead. Because if that one game was any indicator, this kid isn't just a player. He's a force. And the Browns finally have something worth protecting. So what happens next? The expectations are going to skyrocket. National media will jump on the Sanders bandwagon. The pressure will mount. Critics will resurface. Every mistake will be dissected. Every win will be scrutinized. That's the cost of greatness. But if there's one thing that night proved, it's that Shedeur doesn't run from pressure. He walks into it unshaken. And that's what sets him apart. That's what makes this different. Because quarterbacks come and go. Flashes in the pan. Players who show up and flame out. But what Sanders showed in that game, that wasn't just fire, it was foundation. A foundation this team can finally build on. So the Browns front office, it's your move. The hard part's over. The answer is standing right in front of you. Don't overthink it. Don't try to polish it. Don't hold it back. Just let it happen. And to the fans, you earned this. You've sat through years of half-truths and rebuilds that went nowhere. You stayed loyal when it would have been easy to walk away. And now, you finally got a quarterback who isn't a placeholder, isn't a question mark, isn't a gamble. He's a guy. And after a game like that, the league knows it too. So tell us what you saw. Did Stefanski dig his own grave with that 2-point call? Was Shedeur being held back this whole time? And how far do you think the Browns can go now that the Sanders era is in full effect? Like, if you felt that one deep in your soul, drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've been to the pain and finally see the light. And don't forget to subscribe, because if this is what Shedeur Sanders looks like at the beginning, then we're about to witness something legendary.